He had a line of poetry rattling around in his head. Something he read in his youth about old men becoming explorers because they had little to lose. It had seemed a fine sentiment back then. What you don't yet realise, Sonny Jim, smart-ass kid, is the less life you have left, the more precious your little becomes. There was something in it though. You couldn't hoard life. You had to spend it freely. He had become miserly with life over the years. An insipid cook, a frugal shopper, a tepid lover, while he still had someone to love. A timid, inshore sailor. You can't take it with you, matey boy, and you're sure as hell going. Isolated, with only a few acquaintances and half-friendly neighbours to keep him in touch with reality, his mind turned inward. He started to plot and scheme, half in jest, half in earnest. What about sailing off into the wide blue yonder, literally? She was a good little boat, seaworthy, although the forehatch was dodgy and the crazed port lights wouldn't take much of a beating. But she had nearly a ton of lead in the keel and she was strong. He'd sailed her for 30 years and he knew every inch of her. The VHF radio would only work for the first 20 miles out into Bass Strait, and he didn't have an HF set. But what did that matter? Who are you going to call? God? Neptune? Helena? Ah, that's her name. That was her name. See, not completely doolally yet, Sonny Jim. Still got some marbles. He'd never seen the ice. What a wondrous thing it must be. He knew that it was out there, tantalisingly out of reach. Just steer east of Flinders Island, then keep heading south. Keep an eye on the GPS so as not to bump into Tasmania, and even a small boat could get there, surely. O'Donnell of the Antarctic. What an adventure. What a laugh. The prospect of the voyage gave him new focus and energy. Passage plan, provisioning, everything would have to be written meticulously, or he would forget. That's all part of seamanship, Sonny Jim, meticulous record keeping. Then, one fine afternoon in late October, he put his insane plan into action. His marina neighbour shrugged at the garbled description of a voyage to see the penguins. At St Kilda Pier, maybe? You never knew quite where you were with old Jim. With extra jerry cans of fuel and water lashed to the rail, the lockers stuffed with random provisions and warm clothing, he cast off the lines of his marina pen for the last time and gave Geelong a wave farewell. Overnight, he anchored off St Leonard's, watching the lights of the town reflected on the inky water as he broached the first of his stash of rum. Gout be damned. At 11 the next morning, he sailed out of the Heads, timing his passage through the feared Rip to perfection. The little yacht sailed out on smooth seas and a fair tide, popping out of Port Phillip like a cork out of a bottle, out into Bass Strait, where he had never ventured alone before.